This conference will now be recorded.
No, three's good.
Okay, good.
Gentlemen, we appreciate you being here.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're
Please
hoping
do
the
not get
other
up and
ones-
walk out. We need all three of you.
Yeah, hopefully somebody else will show up.
Okay. See Erica lives.
Well, I told her that.
Blocks this direction. She's been all right.
I told
We're
her
good.
that.
Really? Carlos was fine.
Yeah.
I would like to now call to order the Citizens Advisory Task Force meeting. It is 5:04 PM. I will do the roll call. Joel Bacon,
Present.
Ellen Taylor, David Armstrong, Talisha McKenzie, Gary Hattrick,
Here.
David Fox.
Good afternoon. I'm David Fox with Fred Fox Enterprises. We're a grant writing and administrative firm. I'm going to go over some items with you today. There's an agenda posted on the overhead, and also I believe they handed one out. There is a sign-in sheet going around if everybody could sign in, including the audience.
He's on there up here now. Whoop.
You've previously filled out a Citizen Advisory Task Force survey form or household income form. There's no need to go over that. You've already completed that item. So item 2 has already been completed. Item 3, presentation on the small city CDBG program and program categories. I've handed out a PowerPoint presentation or pamphlet package. Everybody looks, I'm going to go through this. This is an overview on the community development block grant application process and how it works. This wasn't advertised Citizens Advisory Task Force or CATF. Thank you for participating and volunteering. This is one of the steps in a CDBG application for public comment and for points in the application itself. You hear me? Starting on page 1, we went over that. It was advertised for April 14th, 2025 at 5 p.m. On page 2, under the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant Small Cities Program, there are 4 categories. Right now, there's a $40 million pot of CDBG funds that is eligible for applications. They are due May 16th. Until last week, they were due May 2nd, but then they extended it to May 16th of Thursday. You are competing with other small cities across Florida that are qualified for the Small Cities Program. Unlike previous years, there's a resolution in place or an executive order that allows funded communities that already have funding to also apply. So this is a different cycle. It's going to be a more competitive cycle. So it used to be previously, if you had a neighborhood housing, commercial, or economic development application or an open housing, commercial, or neighborhood application, you could not apply in the regular cycle for another housing, commercial, or neighborhood, you can only apply for economic development, which you can apply for every year. This year, even if you have one open, you can still are eligible to apply. Previously, I think you were maxed at $700,000 or $750,000 that you could apply for under this program. They have not set a maximum. So one community could go in there and apply for as much up to the 40 million. Don't think that's going to happen, but that is a possibility for the $40 million pot. There are 4 categories under this program that you can apply under. You can only apply under one of the first 3, or usually can only apply under one of the first 3. It's a housing rehabilitation where you go into owner-occupied, low to moderate income households and you bring them up to code. You can address all code violations or need to address all code violations, health and safety issues, electrical, plumbing, doors, windows.
Yes, please. We'll take that.
We're not to that point yet.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, thank you for the comment. Under that category, usually you've got to address every code violation. So you can't go in there like other programs through the county. You can't go in there and just fix a roof and walk away. You have to address all the code violations, health and safety issues. And then if it's in bad enough shape or exceeds 50% of the value to repair it, you can actually replace it under that program. So you could do a 1-for-1 home replacement for houses that were in bad enough shape. You would do a ranking system and pass a housing assistance plan to determine how you're going to rank your applicants after you were funded. The second category is commercial vitalization. You've done one of those previously. It's where you went into the downtown area. You did some, I believe, a parking structure or parking area. It addresses commercial needs for downtown to bring people downtown. You can do streetscape improvements, sidewalks, building facade, downtown commercial area. Like I said, you can even do parking structures under that one. Under that one, you at least be 51% low to moderate income citywide, and by census, you meet that criteria. So we've already checked that.
But what's the difference between commercial area, downtown commercial area, and town service area?
The town service area would be everybody in the city limits would benefit from downtown improvements. So at least 51% of the city would have to be low to moderate income, where the service area would just be the commercial area itself. So you could have to do the work downtown, but the people would have to benefit citywide. Neighborhood revitalization is infrastructure improvement. That's where you go into a low moderate income area and address infrastructure improvements. Examples of that is street paving, water line replacement, sidewalks. You can do water plant and sewer plant. You would have to do a door-to-door random survey to determine at least 51% of the people that were on the water system or the sewer system met the LMI criteria, or low to moderate income criteria. You can also do community centers. You can do park improvements. All that falls under neighborhood revitalization. Under 1, 2, and 3, under the regular cycle, if you have one open, you cannot apply for another one until you close either the housing, commercial, or neighborhood. Under this cycle, you can have a housing, commercial, neighborhood and still apply. That's why it's so competitive. The 4th category is economic development. Under that one, you've got to have a job creator involved. I think y'all did one of those previously with either Home Depot or Lowe's. And what they would do is you would take the infrastructure needs up to the property line. You wouldn't do anything actually on the business itself's property, but you would have to have a developer on board when you applied. For every job you create, you can apply for up to $34,999.99, and the city would be the applicant, even though you have a developer involved. But the developer will have to be willing to participate in the application process. Any questions on the 4 categories? All right, we go to page 3. We talk about low to moderate income. I'm just going to hit this briefly. These are set by HUD amounts based on the area median. So a family of 4 for Zephyrhills would be a total income of $83,450. Family of 6 is $96,850, and a family of 8 would be $110,200. That's just showing you that when we talk about low to moderate income, that values aren't very low, but they're reasonable. But those at least 51% of the beneficiaries on a project would have to fall under those income criteria, and 100% of any housing applicants would have to fall under that criteria. For the biggest points, at least 30% of your housing benefits would have to fall under that first line. A family of 4 $32,150, a family of 6, $43,150, and a family of 8, $54,150. Any questions on the income limits? All right, these are competitive applications. They're going to be very competitive this year. On page 4, for each $2,000 that the city obligates toward the grant application or the grant project, once it's been funded, then they will receive 25 points or 1 point for every 2,000. The city can obligate more than the 50,000, but they just don't get any additional benefit points for it or additional bonus points for it. There's no requirement to do the leverage, but like I said, it's gonna be competitive. Every point you can get, the stronger your application will be. Under the neighborhood revitalization and commercialization projects, if you go in, the city goes in shovel ready, meaning the plans and specs are done and they've applied for the permits, don't have permits in hand, but they've applied for them, then they will get additional 50 points in the application. If the city goes in shovel ready on a project, they will not get reimbursed for the cost to prepare the design before they submitted the application, and they cannot use the cost for the design as part of the leverage points either. The leverage points must be spent after you actually have a site visit or go to contract. So you're taking a risk, but usually you're going to do a shovel ready project for something you got to do if you get funded or not. Okay, any questions on that? The steps when applying for a CDBG application: 1, appoint a Citizens Advisory Task Force. Thank you for volunteering once again. Advertise and hold a CATF meeting, which we're doing right now. Later tonight, we'll hold a first public hearing to get public comment on the projects or the categories. Advertise and hold a fair housing workshop, which we're also doing tonight. It's about 10 minutes when there's no action taken. It's just informational. And then once we get a project determined tonight, and if the city decides to move forward with an application, then we'll prepare a draft application and they'll hold a second public hearing to get input on the application itself before it's submitted on May 16th. Any questions so far?
All this that you went through really doesn't have a whole lot to do with us except for coming up with projects. Is that right?
Yeah, what you do is you provide information to the council recommendation if they want to apply and what category, and they don't have to take your recommendation when they
Of
usually
course,
do.
right.
But we're just, basically, this is one of the public input steps to see if there's any projects out there that you have questions on or that you would recommend. And we're also going to get some comments from the city staff on projects they have. Any comments so far or questions or from the board?
Are there being project proposed tonight?
There'll be a project proposed tonight, but won't weigh any heavier than a project you have in mind that you would like to see done.
I didn't know what that project is.
Well, if you have do you have a project in mind that you would like to recommend first, and then I'll present them up here? No? Yes?
Like see some more lighting in our parks?
Okay.
Is that?
And we'll get into that. Once we get further
Okay.
into this, we'll get into it just shortly. Any comments, more comments from the board? These are all steps that are required to be taken as part of the application. Open it up for public comment? Anybody from the public wish to speak? Okay. With no public comment, let it note that we opened it up for public comment. Nobody wished to speak. I'm closing public comment. We're closing the CATF comment for just right now until we get a presentation or just a possible project from the staff. And then from there, you can tell us what kind of project you would like for us to apply for.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Hamilton. I am the CRA director for the city of Zephyrhills. The project that I would like to present to the committee is the Zephyr Park project. We have already started the process for shovel-ready plans. We've asked for funding from the state a couple of times and again this year as well. We contemplate a $10 million construction budget. So the idea for Zephyr Park, not only is it for recreation, for bringing our community together to connect all of the parks for the neighborhoods from Zephyr Park to Hercules. Zephyr Park is also unique in that we will work to do stormwater and flood mitigation as part of the design and construction of the park. So those are thank you, Joel. Those are, that is the reason staff is asking that this committee make Zephyr Park as their priority. The success we've had with Hercules Park has been nothing short of astounding, and how the community has come together to enjoy Hercules. And we want to do the same thing at Zephyr Park, but also address stormwater mitigation as well. Questions?
We've been working,
Yes. It's all part of them. I mean, we have to work with the county. We can only do what's in our boundaries, but that is part of the overall plan.
I agree with the city primary recommendation. It's been 10 years talking about doing something about Zephyr Park or so I agree.
All right, thank you. No, we are in design right now. We had to wait and get a determination from or involvement with the stormwater swift mud. We are working closely with them. Our designers are working closely with them so that we use the park as much as we possibly can. And creating that balance between stormwater mitigation and an amenity. You know, it may flood next year, it may not flood for 20 years. So we want to make sure that it is also a park amenity as well. Questions? Did I answer your question? Okay. Thank you.
All right, so you've heard the 4 categories. You've heard a proposed project from city staff. I'm going to open up for public comment one more time. Any comment from the CATF?
Like this, how can we, with expediting this whole stormwater mitigation?
If you do the stormwater, you're still going to do an environmental process. That's why you go to contract. So you're still looking about a year down the road before you can actually go to bid on the project, or at least award. All right, so we've talked about the 4 categories: the housing, neighborhood, commercial, and an economic development. We talked about staff's recommendation. Any public comment? One more time. Anything from the public? Like to speak, if you'll state your name.
Hi, I'm Erica Freeman, 37519 8th Avenue. I just want to add that we all want Zephyr Park to be redone in a beautiful way that's sustainable. And also that we have an opportunity that we can also get another wish from our local community that they would like a youth center or an area, a building where we can come together inside and be together. But it would be really nice to have the youth center for a safe place for them to go and not get into trouble and maybe be a little mentored and learn something. Thank you.
Any more public comment? We're going to close the public comment section of the meeting. And now we're looking for the CAT. If you have any more questions, or if you have a motion to recommend a project, what the project would be and what category. And then from there, we'll do a second and a vote. Do we have a motion? If you'll state your name, if you have a motion for a project to recommend to council.
Not this time.
You have a proposed project you'd like to, one of the categories, or?
Make a motion, Gary Hattrick. I guess it would be under neighborhood revitalization that we do the work on Zephyr Park.
Yes, sir, that's correct. So we
A
have,
second.
okay, so we have a motion. State your name again. I'm sorry, sir.
Pardon?
State your name one more time.
Gary Hattrick.
We have a motion, Mr. Haddock, a second by Mr. Bacon. Any more discussion? Any more comments?
I imagine that with the cost of the park revitalization, whatever grant we get would take up all of it. Is that probably correct?
And we'll
Then
talk
there's
more
no
about
point in
that.
recommending anything
The
else.
second public hearing will have more about a budget and stuff. We'll give you some more information. All right, we have a motion that recommends the council a neighborhood application or applying for a neighborhood application under CDBG for Zephyr Park improvements. We have a second. Any more comment from the public? No closed public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Any more questions or discussion from anyone from the board? Any more discussion from the audience? Public? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn. State your name, please, sir. Do we have a second?
Harry Hattrick.
Got a second, Mr. Hack? Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much for attending. Showing we finished at 5:22 p.m. Thank you very much. If y'all have any questions, please call me.
Sure.
Thank you. And you're welcome to stay for our public hearing at 8 minutes.
This conference will now be recorded.
Can't complain. Are you busy? Yeah, I mean, we slow down here. I'm not 4 weeks behind. Yeah, I'm still doing work. Yeah, but you're not 5 weeks behind. Okay. Oh, what you do? I do too. But you're been your gig.
Kendall,
He doesn't agree, so.
I seen him out there, so I'm hoping.
I don't even know how that'll work. Well, I think the other thing is, well, we'll find out. But
Yeah.
I think you're up next for council president. I told Lance and I thought it was me, but I'm glad it's you. So you're vice president, I think, yeah.
Right now,
Congratulations, did you
Oh,
dress nice
done.
for your?
We changed it. Then we'll move them.
It's okay. Oh, frick. You screwed me once. Steven Nader? Okay, so.
Are you gonna get?
Just keep it easy for you.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Zephyrhills City Council meeting of Monday, April 14, 2025. It is 5:32 p.m. Ricardo, can I have the roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Lance Smith. Here. Jody Wilkerson.
Here.
Charles Proctor.
Here.
Kenneth Burgess.
Here.
Stephen Spina.
Here.
Mayor Munson.
Here.
William Poe.
Here.
Matthew Maggard.
On his way, he's hung up. Okay, at this time, we're going to have the invocation, who must be delivered by Kendall DeFord, and we'll follow that with a pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray this evening. Father, we love you so much, and we're so conscious of your love for us. Thank you for that. And at this special season, time of the year, we celebrate the sacrifices that Jesus made, and next week we'll celebrate our risen Lord. We thank you for that. It's a privilege, Lord, to be able to live and serve in this community. I pray that you would continue to keep our first responders safe. And I pray that everything that takes place this evening will be under your directorship. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight and ask if you can silence your electronic devices. There will be a portion of the meeting set aside for citizens' comments. And I'll just let you know that you have 3 minutes to make your comments. And when you come up to the microphone, if you could state your name and address for the record. All right, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the mayor for her portion.
All right, we are going to first start off with the administration of the oath for our council seat 1 and council seat 4. So let's start with Lance Smith. Come on up. Should we do it right here?
The microphone has a hard time.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. I
Hi.
state your name.
Lance Smith,
A citizen of the state of Florida and the United States of America,
a citizen of the state of Florida and the United States of America,
and being an officer of the city of Zephyrhills,
and being an officer of the city of Zephyrhills,
and a recipient of public funds such as officer,
and a recipient of public funds such as officer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States of America
the Constitution and
Constitution and government,
government of the United States of America,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
and the city of
and the
Zephyrhills,
city of Zephyrhills,
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic and foreign,
domestic and foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
to
the same,
the same,
and that I will faithfully perform all duties
and that I will faithfully perform all duties
of the office of Council Seat 1
of the office of Council Seat 1
of Zephyrhills,
of Zephyrhills,
which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Now you got it. Okay. I,
Ken Burgess,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida,
and the United States of America,
the United States of America,
and being an officer
being an officer
of the city of
of the
Zephyrhills
city of Zephyrhills,
and a recipient of public funds
recipient of public funds
such as officer,
such as officer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect, and defend
protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the state of Florida,
the state of Florida,
and the city of
and the
Zephyrhills,
city of Zephyrhills,
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
domestic and foreign,
domestic and foreign,
and that I will bear true faith,
and that I will bear true faith,
loyalty, and allegiance
loyalty, and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
perform all duties
perform all duties
of the office of Council Seat 4
Council Seat 4
of City of Zephyrhills,
of Zephyrhills,
which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
There you go. Well,
Going to doctor tomorrow, but I think I passed the cognitive test there.
Yeah, congratulations. All right, so now we've got to reorganize.
Okay, reorganization of the council officers. I guess we'll take a nomination for council president.
Mr. President, I nominate Charlie Proctor as president.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to nominate Charlie Proctor as council president. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and I will pass the gavel to Councilman Proctor.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we need a nomination for council vice president.
Oh, what is, in the rotation, who's the next party?
The rotation, it should be Councilman Spina.
I'll move that Councilman Spina is nominated as vice president.
Second.
I got a notion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All against, say no. Forgive me. It's been 6 years. All right, so we have a vice president. Now we got to reorganize the liaison appointments.
Mr. President, if there's no objections, I would like to just continue on or make a motion to continue the appointments as listed or as they are now.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to keep the liaison appointments the way they are. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All nay, say nay. No nays, passes unanimously. Thank you. All right. Proclamation for Temple Terrace Centennial.
Okay, we did a proclamation recognizing the city of Temple Terrace on its centennial anniversary next month. I had crossed messages with the mayor and got them a little confused, so I'm going to present the mayor. I'm going to bring it down to them, so we're not going to read it tonight, but we have it here if anyone would like to see it.
So, Dr. Spina, is that, this is their centennial, like
Yes.
100 years?
100 years.
Okay, cool.
And the reason it was kind of special to me is when I was the interim city manager there, I helped with the council set up their centennial committee. So they've been doing this for a couple of years, planning events. So.
You know, in 2026, we have it's the birthday of our country, the 250th anniversary of the founding of our country. And I know that City Manager Poe has met with ladies of the DAR who are working to assemble a committee of folks and to honor and to celebrate.
That'd be good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving forward, we have 6 consent agenda
We have
items.
citizen contact.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Now we have the citizens' comments. Is there anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, I have Kendall DeFord.
Kendall? If you would state your name and address for the record, you have 3 minutes. Thanks.
Kendall DeFord at 5714 18th Street in Zephyrhills. I believe you have in your packet a letter that I submitted. For the sake of the people here and those online, I'd like to read that letter. It's regarding the clothing donation and drop boxes that were scattered around town. I'd like to remind you that a month or so ago, I brought to the attention of this council that a number of clothing donation boxes were appearing in parking lots around town. At that meeting, you asked me to create a list of their locations, and Matt Maggard asked me to send the list to him, which I did. Unbeknownst to me, my son, Pastor Nick DeFord, had arranged for a clothing donation trailer to be placed on our church property, which was placed in our parking lot within a few days of that council meeting. I commented to him that I had just made my comment at the council meeting and was in the process of making the list of donation boxes. He told me that the organization that placed the trailer on our property had informed him that the trailer was not in violation of the city ordinance since it was portable and temporary. On April 2nd of 25, Mike Lambert, code enforcement officer with the city, contacted me at the church and told me the trailer was in violation of the ordinance. Nick joined in the conversation and he passed on the comment that the organization that placed it, what he had told us. In that conversation, Mike told us that a permit could be obtained for the trailer on a temporary basis. He said the permit would be for 30 days and could be renewed. We assured Mike that we would contact the city and take care of the situation. You may be aware of several structures that have been placed around town by the Zephyrhills Wesley Chapel Ministerial Association, of which Nick and I are both members. These are called blessing boxes. People can leave or take mostly food items. We try to make sure these locations do not become unsightly and are used properly. Sometimes clothing items are left, but they seem to be taken in a timely manner. Since the trailer was placed in our church parking lot, Nick and I have made sure the area is clear of any unsightly items placed outside the trailer. Incidentally, the trailer is full on almost a weekly basis. I'm not here to request an exemption or any special treatment regarding the current ordinance. We will go through the proper channels and obtain a permit if allowed. I understand that these ordinances such as this such as the one involved in this discussion are necessary to prohibit unsightly structures. I do appear before this council tonight to suggest that the ordinance related to this subject might be reviewed and the wording could be revised to make it possible for a permitting process to allow nonprofits to place and maintain portable structures such as a trailer on private property. Such wording could include specific guidelines for the upkeep of the area. I understand that the current 30-day permit allows the city to have the option to refuse the renewal of a permit when the owner does not comply with the stated guidelines, but perhaps a 3 or 6 month permit could be enacted. Might I suggest that any fees could be waived for nonprofits? Sincerely, Kendall DeFord.
Right, well, thank you. Billy, what is the ordinance? Where does the ordinance stand now?
I do not have the ordinance in front of me. I do not know it. I do not have it memorized. I
I
apologize.
thought we did something several years ago and changed the rules, but I don't have the ordinance in front of me either. Yes,
May?
yes, ma'am.
Well, first of all, I spoke with with Pastor DeFord earlier today, and I told him that I believe that, in particular, the blessing boxes do benefit a segment of our society. I think there are a group of people who are committed to ensuring that those get filled on a regular basis. There's been some discussion on community websites that some people take advantage of it, but you know, if in fact we're doing Jesus's work, we don't judge. So the reality is that we probably have a need for this, and the city's only objection has been that they sometimes get messy or unsightly. So so I don't have an objection to what's being requested. I would defer to the city manager for language, but would invite the council to share their feelings about the idea of these collection boxes.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm not really totally familiar with the ordinance either, but I've seen these where they have trailers and things set up at shopping center parking lots. And that was part of the problem. I think when you first came to us, there was these white buildings. They weren't trailers, but I would like to just leave it the way it is. I don't want to start having, there's a lot of nonprofits and churches and groups here that would qualify if we change this and allow for these trailers to be set up. There are other nonprofits, the Baptist Church has one, and other churches where you can donate clothing and things to them, and then they help disperse it as well. I think that this would just create more of a problem for code enforcement. We're already kind of trying to get a move on keeping these things, things like this to a minimum. And I think that, the blessing boxes are a different thing. I mean, they're a small box on a, they're not a trailer. They're not a huge, whatever they are out there, parking lots. But I would rather just leave it the way it is.
Well, and I think the other thing is that that I often wonder where are those clothes going. So there are some companies that collect these clothes and they use them, they recycle them, they shred them, they use them for consumer goods, post-consumer waste. So, that if people, and Dr. Speen, if you knew, I do this a lot, I donate clothing a lot. I just lost 70 pounds, so pretty much everything out of my closet. But there are nonprofits that were like, no, we can't take any more clothes, especially when the winter visitors leave at the end of the season. They often donate a lot of their clothes. So I'm not sure, so the challenge is, I know that you removed the blessing box that was at the Nazarene Church and put the trailer instead. Is there a monetary exchange there? Do they make a donation to be able to keep the trailer there?
Actually, the clothing is weighed. We have a combination to the lock on the trailer, and we go in there and shuffle stuff around, take out things that shouldn't be donated there. But there is a business that empties the trailer. We have all opportunity to get anything out of the trailer that we or our people can use. But yes, they take it. Some of it is sent overseas, and some of it probably is, like you said, it may be made for consumer use.
Else?
Mr.
Councilman Smith?
President, I do remember when this became a problem last time. What happened was there was no writing on the box as to whose it was. The clothes were being piled right up next to it, and it just became a big problem. So we had to do something. Unfortunately, sometimes some of the good actors are harmed somewhat with the bad actors. But I mean, I think if I remember right, we allowed for collection of it in that ordinance, but I'm saying that from memory. I can't remember, but I know it was a big problem at one point because these boxes were all over with clothes heaped all over them, and it was raining and it was a mess. So that's why we did it.
I tried to obtain a copy of the ordinance from Matt, and I didn't get it. From talking to Mike Lambert, he explained the permitting process, but he didn't know the wording of the ordinance.
Well, it would be online. I mean, we could look it up, but I mean, for him to come and show up and say it was a violation, then I'm pretty sure it's a violation. So I would just say, let's leave it alone. Okay.
Councilman Burgess?
I mean, I do remember that they came upon, because they were just sort of just appearing out of nowhere. Nobody knew where they were coming from. And then they were very much a code enforcement problem. And that was the purpose of the ordinance, which I see there's an avenue here for at least a temporary permit. And I don't know what the situation was, if it's a special clothing drive at this particular time or whatever the reason was. But I see we must have in the ordinance the opportunity for a 30-day time period or whatever. And, maybe it could be like those community yard sales where they do them twice a year or something like that. It'd be like 60 days. I kind of agree with Councilman Smith or Spina because of the problems that we had. And like, again, the blessing boxes seem to be working fine. What, those seem to be doing, and they're not the same type of, product that we were trying to regulate anyway. So.
Well, and they're adopted by the people who are managing them. So outside of the women's club or outside of the Presbyterian church, those folks are maintaining those and making sure they don't get too nasty. But the ones in the parking lot at Publix, for example, no one wants to know about that. No one wants to modify, or no one wants to clean up after those. That's not part of I'm sure it's not part of the maintenance team's responsibility. So that's why those got that way, I'm sure.
Well, and if I remember right, we were having people leave not only clothes, but they were leaving garbage. I mean, like bed frames, mattresses, chairs. I mean, and that's a big burden on our staff and on code enforcement. It sounds like, do we want to keep it the same? Is that kind of the agreement?
Well, so the ordinance apparently allows for a 30-day permit, but what is the cost for that? Do we even know?
Mike Lambert said that he thought it was around $25 or $30, could only be renewed 3 times a year on a 30-day period.
It would be.
Do we need to vote on this?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's just citizen comments. So it's either we bring it back and take action on it for an ordinance change, or we take no action.
Maybe you could get us all a copy of that, of the
Yes.
actual ordinance.
Yes.
So we're going to put it back on the agenda and review it? Is that what you want to do? Or we're just going to keep it the way it is? No, no.
Yeah,
I'm just
unless
saying.
council
I
says
thought
bring
that's
it
what you
back.
were asking.
No. I was saying our two options, we don't have to vote tonight. Our two options are, direct staff to get the ordinance and make recommended changes, or leave it as it is.
Well, it looks like it's the council wants to leave it the way it is.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it'd be good to
General
get,
consensus.
copies of it. And then if any of us see something
Yeah.
that we need
I
to
would
bring
like
it,
to
then
have
we'll
a
bring
copy.
it back.
All of
I
us, yeah.
would too, because if there is a way to make it work for you folks, we'd like to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else signed up for citizens' comments?
Yes, sir. I have one more.
All right.
Rod Neal.
Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening. Rod Neal, 7422 16th Street, Zephyr Hills. And I'm here about the Zephyr Lodge, number 198 FNAM, and talking about the traffic pattern. And I appreciate your time. Thanks for giving us a few minutes to address this again. I would like to say I really appreciate what you guys have charted for the intersection there by the lodge. Any traffic control will help. But I'd like to revisit the ideal of the easement. And I know that the city had asked us for a while back if they could get easement to put up a traffic barrier. We'd really like to consider that and like to see what the engineering requirements and how much space you need and what we're looking to do it. If I could get an engineering plat on that or something informational that I could take back to the lodge and present at our officers meeting, I would really appreciate that. You guys would consider.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, if we offered it in the past, I think it was probably for a good reason. Yeah.
All right. Well, so Billy, you're gonna.
We'll get with Kimley Horn and we'll get that information. What that distance requirement is, we can get that to you.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shalom, ladies.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
All right. Now, is there anyone else signed up?
I have no one else signed up.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the council? Seeing none, I will move on to the consent agenda items. We have 6 consent agenda items tonight. We can vote on them all at once, or any of you can pull one for discussion.
I have a question about one of them. I can just ask ahead.
Okay.
On the one for the utility agreement for 5530 Bell Street, the name on that is a corporation. Is that for a temporary connection for construction, or I'm not sure how that's working? Normally these are, the individuals who own the property, not a.
I do not know that answer. I'll be honest with you. I
don't object to it. I just wondered, a lot of times, the contractor gets a temporary permit or something to get service to the property, but this looked like it was a corporation, and I don't know.
Yeah, I also saw that too, and I mean, like I said, I didn't know.
I mean, I don't mind.
Yeah, I just didn't know, wasn't sure
If it's
what.
a rental, often
Well,
they'll have an
I think it's under
LLC.
construction now. That's what
Okay.
it looked like to me. I mean, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
But Suncoast Real Properties and Construction LLC, it very well could be that they constructing it will own it, and then it becomes a rental and it stays in their name.
I was curious about.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve items 1 through 6 of the consent agenda.
Like,
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye. All against? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to business item 2.1, Community Development Block Grant for a public hearing, and I will turn this over to Dave Fox.
Thank you very much. I'm David Fox of Fred Fox Enterprise. This is an advertised first public hearing for a 2023-2024 CBG application. You want me to, you have a clicker?
I want to thank you for making that text big enough to read from here.
don't do it yet.
Okay.
Yeah, you better wait.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, sorry about that.
Never mind.
This year's cycle is different than any previous one that I've been doing working with for almost 30 years. They have done a special, or the governor has done a special resolution where previously, if you had a housing, commercial, or neighborhood community development block grant, you couldn't apply until you closed it out. If you had one in any of those three categories, you couldn't apply for any of those three categories until you closed it out. Well, this year, anybody that is interested that qualifies for the small cities CDBG program can apply. There's a $40 million pot. Applications are due May 16th. The used to be that you had a maximum to apply for. The largest communities can apply up to 750,000. This year, there's no max. So you can apply for whatever the need is, as long as you can document you're meeting your need criteria for the cost. But there are still the same categories. So the first category is housing rehabilitation. That's where you go into owner-occupied, low to moderate income households that were within the city limits, and you address all code violations and health and safety issues. The second possible category is commercial revitalization, where you go into a downtown area. You've done one previously for parking improvements, and I think some downtown work streetscape, but you meet the 51% low to moderate income citywide criteria for that based on census. And you could do improvements to the downtown facades, pedestrian malls, those kind of things. The third is a neighborhood revitalization category. That's where you do infrastructure improvements in low to moderate income neighborhoods. You can even do water plant or sewer plant improvements as long as these people benefiting or the beneficiaries of the water plant and sewer plant meet the 51% low to moderate income criteria. Under that category, you can do street paving, sidewalks, replacement of water lines, sewer lines, neighborhood centers or community centers, park improvements. Those are all possible projects under the neighborhood category. And then the fourth category, which is kind of a standalone category, is economic development. You have to have a developer on board for every job that they're going to create. You can apply for $34,999.99. Usually that's got a 1.5 million max that you can get a waiver for. But like I said, there's no max this year on this cycle. So that wouldn't even factor in. But on a regular cycle, usually you can only apply up to 1.5 million under the neighborhood category, or under the economic development category, or you can actually ask for a waiver to exceed that. So those are the four categories.
Mr. Fox?
Yes, sir.
Can you real quickly explain the 51 LMI for application threshold?
Okay,
Real quick.
to be able to apply under a housing, everybody's got to be low to moderate income by the HUD census. And on page 3, it kind of goes over those income amounts.
Mm-hmm.
For a commercial project, revitalization project, at least 51% of the city must meet the low to moderate income criteria. If you can't meet it by census, then you can meet it by a door-to-door random survey to document that you meet that criteria. Under a neighborhood project, if let's say you do a street paving, everybody on that street, at least 51% would have to be low to moderate income. You would do a door-to-door survey to determine that. Under a park project, it would be citywide, which you could do by census. You happen to meet by census data. When we talk about low to moderate income, on page 3, these are based on your area median incomes.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Under the area median income criteria, a family of 4 to be 80% or below would have to make at or below 83,450. A family of 6, just to give you it's based on household size, 96,850. And a family of 8 would be 110,200. So if you make that or below, you would be considered low to moderate income.
And that would be considered the family income, so the household
income. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And then for the housing grants, for maximum points, for additional points, you would want to address at least 3 homes. Actually, it's 2 homes that are below the 30%. So you want household, for instance, a 4-person household would want to be below 32,150, 6-person 43,150, and a 8-person 54,150. And that because they're competitive, so you get points for each category for a certain amount under 30%, for a certain amount under 50% for housing, and then for a certain amount under 80% for housing. And everybody under housing has to be below 80%. You can't do a house that exceeds 80% household income. There's points in your application. They're competitive. Like I said, it's going to be very competitive this year because everybody that qualifies for the small cities program can apply. For each 2,000 of leverage obligated toward the project once it's awarded or the grant's awarded, you can get 1 point or up to 50,000 in leverage for 20. If it costs more than 50,000 of your match to do the project, you can still go over that amount. You just don't get any additional points for it. Under the neighborhood and commercial revitalization projects, if you go in shovel ready under one of those categories, then you get additional 50 points. And shovel ready, for their definition, is plans and specs are ready to go out to bid, and you've applied for permits. Permits don't have to be in hand, but you have to apply for all permits and have receipt. If you need a water management permit, you got to show that you emailed them and applied for that permit, or a receipt that you paid for it. Same thing with a building permit, unless it's new construction. If it's construction that only a permit that only a contractor can get, then that would not be required. But anything doing with water management or those kind of items would have to be required to be applied for, just not in hand when you apply for those 50 points. If you go in shovel ready, you do not get reimbursed for that. Even if funded, you won't get reimbursed for that cost for the design. You're taking that risk to get those 50 points. If you go in design pay for the design up front and go in shovel ready, you will not get you can't use that money for leverage. Leverage is only points for the leverage. The 25 points has to be spent after the site visit, after you've been awarded. Any questions on that? Any questions on that page? All right, these are the steps required when applying for a Green Development Block Grant under the Small Cities Program. Appoint a Citizen Advisory Task Force. You've done that previously. Advertise and hold a CATF meeting or Citizen Advisory Task Force meeting. That was done today. They were very helpful. It was good input. Advertise and hold a first public hearing, which we're doing right now. Advertise and hold a fair housing workshop, which is advertised for tonight also. And then once we get it, if you decide to move forward with a project, we'll get all the data together, we'll write the application, and we'll bring a draft to the second public hearing for public comment and approval from the board, if you decide to proceed. Any questions from the board?
I have a what one are we applying for?
We don't know that yet.
We
We gotta
don't-
have public comment first, and then we can discuss what the CATF said. And this is one of the requirements of the grant. I'm not trying
Okay,
to,
no,
I'm just, that they require us in steps that they are very strict on how they require us to do it. So they require us to talk about the categories, then open it up for public comment. And then from there, we also will get a recommendation or proposed projects from the staff, and also what the CATF recommended tonight for council.
The CATF made recommendations.
Yes, sir.
tonight.
They also made.
And then we'll do the public comment right now.
Yes, if we could,
Okay.
unless there's other questions from the board. I'm not trying to, that's just how they tell us we have to do it.
Oh, well, that's fine.
And for the record, City Attorney Matt Maggard has arrived at 6:08.
If you'll open it up for public comment.
Oh, okay. This is a public hearing. All right, I will now open up the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to speak to this?
No, sir, I have no one signed up.
Is there anyone that would like to speak to this item during the public hearing? Seeing none, I will close the public.
No. Don't go that fast. I'm sorry. It looked like somebody wanted to get up. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see her. She was behind you. Sorry.
My name
Oh,
is
you
Erica.
can lower that down.
Yeah.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Erica Freeman, 37519, and I notice on there that it says parks. So we could do the grant to redo Zephyr Park and rebuild Alice Hall into an amazing community center that it should be.
Thank
Great
you.
suggestion. Thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this during the public hearing? Come on up, please. Oh, you good? Oh, okay. Yes, come on.
Can you tell us your name?
Your name and address for the record, ma'am? Thank you.
I was sat in the Citizens Advisory Committee tonight, the first one they had.
Name and
First thing
address.
I'd heard of it. My name is Rod Neal, 7422 16th Street.
Thank you.
And Zephyr Park, I have to agree, is a jewel in the crown of Zephyr Hills, one of many. And anytime that we can get public funds to go into that and make it better, I think you can't spend it any better than that. It also looks good to me, so I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And is there anyone else? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and we will move on to item 2.2 and I'll turn it over to Dave Fox.
On the, on the public hearing part of it, did you want to get input from what we discussed at the CATF and what the?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What did
Yeah.
they come up with?
Please.
Yeah, the staff, you want to brief on what project you're thinking? Yeah, thank you, Gail.
Good evening, Gail Hamilton, CRA Director, City of Zephyrhills. Tonight at the CATF meeting, we talked about Zephyr Park and how Zephyr Park could make a difference in the community, not only from a park standpoint and bringing the community together, but also using the park as stormwater mitigation, working to make sure that flood issues we mitigate as much as we can through the park. So those are the items that we talked about tonight under CATF, and staff brought the park forward.
Thank you.
I just had a question on that. So that's a good thing to talk about there, but we are also requesting money for kind of the same thing in another avenue. Does it one affect the other, or can we get both? How does that work?
It's a good question.
So asked for funding from Congresswoman Lee's office. The aide there told me that we can, if we receive that funding, we can just give it back, like not accept it. No penalties on that. So I don't.
Can use both if we got both.
In your CDBG application, you'll outline what items you're looking at doing with the grant funds. If you can, if you got other things you want to do that aren't outlined in that application narrative, then you could do it with other.
Let's outline everything.
I'm just saying, can we make it wide reaching where?
That
Yeah.
Put it in there and use both.
Yeah. We do.
One is the stormwater resolution. The other is improving the park amenities for our residents. So really the money could be used for either of those things, right?
Well, if we say we're going to do park improvements, we got to do the park improvements that consist of drainage in the park. You could utilize CBG funds, but if you're going outside the park, that would be a different service.
So it would be in the park, but it just would be outside of the lake, for example. So maybe it's the sidewalk around the lake or whatever.
Yes, as long as it's on the city property.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're doing, like, we would be doing, the drainage, the layout of the land, we would be doing park equipment. And then if we do the Alice Hall Community Center, I mean, that's a lot of money. So I think we could include all those. And if we get everything, then we're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But
Please.
what was the amount?
This year, there's no maximum amount. The total available is 40 million. They're going to split it up. I mean, they're not, but they didn't. Usually, you have a 700 or 750 max. I can't remember if y'all were 750 or 7, but I think it was 750, 750,000. Usually, that's the max. This is the only time that I've seen that they've increased, allowing you to.
Why do you think that there's somebody's
They've got
project?
funds available that they've got to get on the street, and they did a special requirement from storm damage. They waived some of the communities that had storm damage, even though they don't get any additional points because the point scale is still the same as a regular cycle. They're trying to get the money to the people that already have grants that also need storm improvements, storm repairs.
What is your recommendation for the sum that we should ask for?
That'll be based on what you want to have, whatever your project is, you can determine from there. We'll bring that at the second public hearing. If y'all decide to move forward, we'll bring an outline of the project in more detail and the amounts that are proposed, because we're going to need a cost estimate from an engineer and those kind of things that we proceed if you decide to proceed. The CATF did recommend the neighborhood going for the city applying for a neighborhood grant. It's under the neighborhood category, under the CDBG, and for the park improvements. So what I'm looking at tonight is basically just get a direction from the board, if there's no more public comment, on if you want which under the categories you want to go through: housing, commercial, neighborhood would be the park, or economic development, which one you want to go under to apply for in the possible project. Do we want to get public comment one more time, or are we good to move forward?
Question?
Of course.
Yes, ma'am.
How, this is for staff, for shovel ready? I mean, we've had this in design for a long time. How close are we for shovel ready?
They have met with the water management district, and they're working out the design plans with them, so we are close.
So
I don't think we'll be ready in time.
we won't be ready for this.
We won't be shovel ready for the submittal. When is the submittal by?
The deadline is May 16th.
We will not have we won't be shovel ready by the 16th.
We won't be shovel ready, but if I may, but we do have design plans and cost estimates already. So you know what to ask for in terms of costs.
And yeah, we have to have that with the application, engineer's cost estimate. And you
Right.
get, because you haven't had a grant in 5 years, a CDBG open grant, you get 100 bonus points, which is, so you're going to be competitive.
And this is normally 750, but this could be more.
This could be up to whatever.
Like whatever, we could say 3 million.
Maximum available funding is 40 million.
Well, we won't ask for
Well, we won't
40,
go that
but maybe
but
3.
We don't want to get greedy.
Well, yeah, 3 or 4 million. Yeah.
Whatever whatever the cost estimate comes in at.
Yeah,
And,
that's
and then if you decide you want to put the 50,000
How much?
for the points,
10 million.
for the 25 additional points.
Okay, so, and let me ask you another question. At the same time, you can ask for economic development grants as well, right? Because that's the
Yeah,
one you
if
can.
you have an open grant that is the only category. If you have an open grant under a regular cycle, you can apply for one of those every year. As long as ED funds are still available, you can apply every year for those.
So we would have to go through this process with the neighborhood, and once we get that, then we could apply for a separate economic development grant.
Yes, you can always apply for the ED. You don't have one open, so you can apply for an ED.
And we can do that the same year?
Yes, you could
Yeah,
apply for an ED.
all right. So we need to keep that in mind too then, because then we can,
And we already have
we
the
could use
numbers.
that somewhere else.
Yeah, you have to have a developer on board to create the jobs.
Yeah.
And you're going to do, mostly AED is going to be to do infrastructure work, either adding a lift station or running a deceleration lane or whatever you need to entice on the city's property, or doing, I don't know if the county's probably entitlement, I'm not sure.
We have a couple of those. Probably work that in. All right, thank you.
I think we did a Home Depot before, and I think maybe was it Lowe's? Okay. It did Lowe's, and then that road to the Golden Corral or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Y'all done those previously.
then Berg Lane.
Well, in your experience, like, so it's an open amount. Is there like a number that, well, let's say if we ask, because we've got a lot of projects and ideas and we ask for like, I don't know, let's just say, I'm going to throw $10 million out just for a number. They're going to say, where they say, oh, you guys are crazy. They'll give you less potentially because you have enough points for it. How does that work? Is it whatever you ask for or nothing? Or is there a potential to ask for something and we'll give you this?
This is the first time they've done this. I really
Oh,
don't know.
okay.
I know in previous cycles, you have to show that whatever you're applying for, you gotta have a cost estimate to show you're requesting enough or have additional on local match to complete that project. So if you're going to apply for a project that the cost estimate is $3 million, then you got admin costs, engineering, inspection services, all those things, then you need to apply for enough to cover all your costs associated with it. Or even if you do the 50,000 in leverage for the 25 points, so it's the total project minus 50,000 is what you're going to apply for to get those leverage points.
We have reserved.
And you had said earlier that it's kind of, the amount was put in there because of the hurricanes and the drainage and some disaster type relief.
Yeah, it was kind of a disaster initiative kind of thing.
So my thought is that's where we need to try and land. Whatever portion of the park is drainage related or mitigation for stormwater. If you were setting up there, that's what you would be looking for, I think. I'm not saying we can't ask for the other, but we should separate them out, separate the ask out.
It's going to be a few points difference, not a lot, because they give you points by category.
But if we're in,
Drainage is a certain amount and parks is a certain, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'll look, but it's not, it's maybe 10 points different.
I've got to think though that there's other municipalities that are going to have drainage, storm mitigation and a bunch of that. So
It can be a combination thereof. So whatever, let's say you apply for, just round numbers, you apply for $1 million and 500 goes toward drainage and 500 goes toward park improvements. We would do points based on the 500 toward drainage and then additional points for the 500 for drainage. It's averaged out.
and I guess they could give us a partial grant. So, but yeah, as long as we kind of I think we need to separate it out.
I don't know how competitive it's going to be.
Press coverage.
Of course.
All right, you said that, so if we ask for, let's say, $10 million and they say, we'll give you 5, do they expect us to have that 5 million with it to go for the whole project then?
I've never seen them do that. If they do partial funding, I've seen them do partial funding when they only had a certain allocation allowed left, and the last applicant they were short 200,000 or something from the grant availability from CDBG funds. And usually either they wait until somebody de-obligates funds, because it could be from previous years, and they take those de-obligated funds and make them whole. It's usually what they do. So if you're a last ranked by score community that didn't get, or is about only going to get partial funding, they won't usually award it until they've got some de-obligated funds from another source, or the ED cycle's over, so those remaining funds go toward the regular cycle. So every time I've seen it previously, I remember they've made it whole before they went to contract with you.
This is HUD money.
This is HUD funds. These are federal funds.
All right, and
These are
they haven't
23,
been,
24 funds.
they haven't been,
Not as of today when they were still in place.
right.
All right.
Did you want one more public comments? So we've gone through all this before y'all make a decision on move forward, or that's up to the board?
We can have public comments if we want. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item? All right.
Do we need a motion to
Yeah, we're looking
accept
for
it?
direction on it. What category? I know the park would be under neighborhood. And if you want to submit an application, or at least have us move forward with preparing an application, and then you make your final decision at the second public hearing.
Make a motion then that apply for the neighborhood revitalization with the parks, that we take the recommendation of the
CATF.
Advisory Task Force and comments from this evening to apply that to Zephyr Park.
I'll second.
All right. Well, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Hearing none, this passes unanimously. Thank you. So,
See you again.
No, I've got the fair housing.
Oh, okay. So we're not.
okay. Yep. 2.2.
Okay. We're a little rusty.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been here since I've been here too.
No, all of us, because we haven't done a grant in a while.
That's true too.
This is a fair house. This is just information purposes. No action's got to be taken. We can get public comment. They have questions. But this gives you additional points in your application also. All right, the Fair Housing Act, what does it do? Prohibits discrimination in housing related transactions, including the sale, rental, or financing of dwellings. It includes refusing to rent to someone, steering someone away to a particular type of housing or neighborhood, enacting zoning measures to exclude particular groups because of a membership in a protected class. The protected class under the Fair Housing Act are color, race, religion, national origin, sex, familiar status, and disability. There are a couple of exemptions from familiar status we'll get into a little further into the presentation. What is prohibited? No one may take any of the following actions based on race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiar status, or national origin. You cannot refuse to rent or sell housing based on one of the categories, refuse to negotiate for housing, set different terms or parameters, falsely deny that housing is available for inspection when it is available, for profit, persuade or try to persuade homeowners to sell or rent dwellings by suggesting that people of a particular race, age, sex, etc. have moved or are about to move into a neighborhood, or deny any person's access to membership or participation in an organization, facility, or service related to housing. Housing protections for families with children. This is the one that has a few things that that are exempt. Is unlawful to discriminate against a person whose household includes one or more children who are under 18 years of age. That's familiar status. The exemption under that, if it's a 55 or older community, they can be exempt from the familiar status category. Additional protection if you have a disability. If you have a physical or mental disability, including hearing, mobility, and visual impairment, cancer, chronic mental illness, or HIV/AIDS, essentially limits one or more major life activities, or if you're regarded as having such a disability, you cannot refuse to let a person make reasonable modifications to their dwelling at their expense. Under that, if somebody's moving into a home and they need to put in a handicap ramp, this is just an example, you can't refuse that they put in the handicap ramp or enlarge the door, but you can require them to put it back to the original condition before they move out or as part of the move out. What housing is exempt from fair housing? The Federal Fair Housing Act exempts owner-occupied buildings with no more than 4 units and single-family housing sold or rented without use of a broker. So if you have say you have a garage apartment behind your home and that's the only rental you have, you're exempt from the Fair Housing Act. So if because you have less than 4 units and it's not a commercially, like a realtor renting it out. There are the senior housing exemptions I talked about. Communities with people 55 or 62 or older is designated as a community for that age group. It falls under a senior housing exemption. If you think you have rights have been violated, there's avenues you can go through. There's a local fair housing ordinance you have in place. You can also file a complaint with the Florida Commission on Human Relations through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Southeast Region Office or the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban DC office. This information is available at town or at City Hall if somebody has a question on where they can who to contact with a complaint. If you file a complaint, you'll need the following information. You need to provide the name and address of where the action took place, your name and address, the address or other identification of the housing involved. So if it's an apartment complex, the name of the apartment complex, a short description of the alleged violation, and the date that it occurred. Some of the local policies have a limitation of time. So if it's a 45-day policy, you complain in 50 days, you may be past the deadline requirement. It'll be based on the local policy. What happens when you file a complaint? HUD actually has a complaint department for fair housing. The officer receiving the complaint will notify the person filing the complaint, an alleged violation, or the violator of the filing of your complaint, and allow the respondent time to submit a written answer to the complaint. HUD will investigate your complaint and determine whether there is reasonable cause to believe that the respondent violated the Fair Housing Act. You will be notified in writing within 100 days of the complaint. If they can't meet the 100-day deadline, they will provide you information that they're going to extend it. And during the complaint investigation, HUD is required to offer you and the respondent the opportunity to voluntarily resolve the complaint with a conciliation agreement. Any questions from the board on the Fair Housing Act? There's no action required on this. It's just information purposes. Any questions from the public? Questions?
Does anyone in the public have any questions to this? Seeing none.
Thank you very much. I will see you for the second public hearing.
All right. Well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you for your time. It's good seeing everyone again.
Thank you.
We appreciate all your help. And now we will move on to business item 2.3, storage facility ordinance. I'll turn it over to Matt Maggard.
Item 2.3.
All right, I will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to speak to this?
No, sir, there's no one signed up.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And Todd, you have something for us?
Well, just a couple of things. I, of course, brought the planning report item for this staff-initiated recommended changes to our city's land development code and our zoning use table in regards to storage. I wasn't at the last meeting when we brought this forward for the first reading of the ordinance. I was at the annual planning conference. So once I got back, I spoke to Billy and Matt and got the input from the last meeting. And there was 3 items that was presented to me that was brought up, and I wanted to address those to you and how we're addressing those 3 items. If you have your agenda packet in the agenda memo, what I did was identified those 3 items right at the beginning of the agenda memo, if you want to refer to that. So the first item was pretty straightforward, I think. For storage facilities that allow boat and RV camping storage, we discussed, and I think we're in agreement that we don't have to allow it, but we may allow it if it's in the back area of the site with less visibility from the road frontages. But I think the comment that my understanding is y'all brought up, we want some language in there to ensure that that storage area just isn't grass or dirt, that'd be an improved surface. So we've added that language into that section of the code to address that comment that y'all had. I think that's pretty straightforward, right? Okay, item number 2, there was a question about storage facilities in the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Area District. And you'll see in the agenda memo where I talk a little bit about our form-based code. There's T3, T4, T5 zoning. And the zoning within the form-based code is under a separate ordinance. So in our form-based code, we have a use table. And right now, like indoor storage facilities aren't allowed in the form-based code. So Gail and I talked about this. We're okay at this time with leaving it as no indoor storage facilities allowed. We presented an item where it was a mixed use building where the storage was vertically integrated into, and we're not opposed to that. However, what we talked about and then discussed with Billy and Matt was we have some other recommended changes to the form-based code ordinance that we've been talking about. Some of them have to do with uses. I won't get into all that now, but I think staff was okay with not making any changes to allow indoor storage facilities into the CRA district or the form-based code. And we'll come back and revisit that at an alternate date. Okay. Then the last item, item 3, was just some clarification. And there apparently was some questions about lot coverage and how much it could exceed. And I just summarized that for y'all. There's a section in our land development code, section 2.01.03.18. That's our light industrial zoning definition, where staff is proposing a reduction in the outdoor storage area that could be done on a site from 50% to 25%. We thought 50% was rather high of an outdoor storage area associated with a business. So we recommended that that be dropped to 25%. However, the business, if they want to try to exceed that, go above 25%, they could apply for a conditional use, and staff will kind of review it, and then that would be the typical conditional use process. It'd go through Planning Commission, City Council. And really the basis for that is we don't want to, the manufacturing with significant land masses of outdoor storage area, lay down areas. We're okay with if it's associated as an ancillary use to permissible use, but that was the kind of the thinking, the basis behind that recommendation. And it was just to clarify also, you see there about the lot coverage area, and it's the building lot coverage that shall not exceed 50%. There was a question about that. So we're in the existing code that we have right now under 709.16, just says lot coverage shall not exceed 50%. So we just put building. The building is, I think, what we're mainly concerned with that. So clarified those 3 items. So yeah, there was the 3 items that we're proposing to clarify the changes that we're proposing to the Land Development Code text amendments in our zoning use table. I don't believe there was any questions on the use table, from my understanding.
Any questions?
And Todd, I just want to ask you, is it the extra space storage that's up there? Isn't that what they're called? I can't remember what they are.
The one at Pretty Pond?
The one in front of Walmart there.
Yes.
And so everything we've done here, that would be permissible?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking kind of for then,
Yeah, it
right?
can be a mixed use with part of a mixed use development project located in the back, limited visibility and improved parking if they do have parking.
The one at Dice, the old Dice's site, that wasn't part of a bigger project, right?
That was a standalone. Now, if you remember, I didn't get any feedback on that or comments from the last meeting apparently, but right now, if you remember what we talked about, the planning report, there are some concerns that we have, and I think y'all were on board with that too, to have them on standalone sites, like for example, a C2 fronting 301, taking up that valuable property. Again, we felt like if they're in the back, it's one thing, but
right,
gobbling up our remaining minimal C2 commercial frontage, maybe not the best use.
And that site actually had more room in the back of it than it
Yes.
did the front.
Still
so-
got a nice small office looking building in the front and the bigger behind the back with good landscaping buffering.
Just wanted to follow up on what Lance said, that, yeah, I like the way that the extra storage was done in that mixed use by the Walmart, the outdoor parking be in the back. I mean, it's a perfect example of, of how we could do it and do it right. Yeah, we don't really want the standalone again, but that one at Dice's was done very well.
Yeah.
I mean, you did a really good job there because
Thank
when you designed that, because that, you know, when you look at the one that's just north of town on the hill to the right, or
Metal
on the left,
building.
it's a
Left
big,
there.
yeah, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so I think the last couple you've done have, and the one on 39 too.
Yeah, I mean, that
You've
one
really
hasn't started
addressed
yet, but
the
that one
issues.
is like a big
Totally,
office building.
yeah, you've addressed the issues, and I
Yeah.
think that solved the problem of, like, limiting it to a mixed use helps us do it better.
Yeah.
Or you
I think
do it
we're all on
better.
the same page.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your
Councilman
comments.
Burgess?
And so on the, and we're going back to the one by the Walmart there, and that works really well because of the way it's laid out. So those outdoor things are tucked up against the hill. Nobody even really knows they're there. Will we still have some flexibility? Because somebody may come to us in a place where that's going to look pretty unsightly somewhere. Will we have the flexibility to, like, say we don't really want that in that particular location, or?
Well, it's conditional use.
So
If
whatever.
there's some overriding concerns or
Okay.
issues.
I just want to make sure
think
we
we'll
still
try
have
to
that.
Look and try to really vet that out well when we're doing the pre-application meeting to try to
On a case
observe
by
things like
case?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, yeah, you guys will have the final
I
say.
just want to make sure that we still have
Right.
that.
I forgot one other thing. I was going down 301 and the Publix Plaza, there's signs on it. There's like a Wells Fargo sign for the bank there. And I think it's only 10 foot high, but it's so low that you can't even hardly see the thing. So that's a separate, that's another thing. We might want to address grade signs at a later time, but where you're only 10 foot above grade and your grade's already 10 foot below the road, might be something for us to consider.
Well, in the standards, if you remember, we amended some language in there. I think there was a mistake, but now you can go up to 10 feet in height is the standard. And that's identified specifically in the current standards.
Right.
We just made.
Yeah, I think that, Todd, the concern is like on 301, where you have 301 is sitting
Oh,
about 10 foot higher than the
Yeah.
grade of the property. So when you put the sign up, it's still below the grade of the road.
Yeah.
That was the concern.
And then they've landscaped it so good that you can't see the sign too. So, you know, but
So we had to go back and we opened up, gave them some more allowances for not having that landscape shrub buffer around those signs. And we work with them on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Todd, I really appreciate the fact that you took all of our comments from the last meeting and
Thank you.
and put them into this ordinance. Does anyone have any more questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we,
Ask for public
Okay,
comment.
you already- Oh, I thought I already did public hearing.
You did.
move that we approve ordinance number 1499-25 on its second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All nays? I hear none. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
All right, we will move on.
2.4.
Yep, item 2.4. I'll turn it over to Matt.
25 resolution of the City Council of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, pursuant to section 196. Florida statutes.
The latest Schimberg annual report identifies a surplus of affordable and available units in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater metropolitan area or statistical area in which Zephyrhills is located for those households that meet the income criteria for the 80 to 120 tax exemption. Copies of the relevant pages of the 24 report are attached. Based on the data of the 24 Schimberg, Zephyrhills qualifies for the ability to opt out of the 80 to 120 tax exemption for 2026. If you remember, there were issues with the Live Local, and so the Senate heard the concerns and they allowed for the annual opt-out for, or opt-out of the 80 to 120 tax exemption if the taxing authority finds that the latest Schimberg Center for Housing Studies in report prepared pursuant to section 420.6075 statutes identifies that the number of affordable and available units in the county is greater than the number of renter households in the county for natural persons or families who meet the income level. There's no fiscal impact, and staff recommends approval of resolution 848-25 on its first reading. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah, I'd have a question. So basically what this is saying is that we don't have to take industrial property and provide for residential uses on it.
What it's saying is that it's not tax exempt, so the tax benefits are not
We're not
available.
there for the, okay.
Correct.
For
But
that
we,
category of above 80 to 120.
we would still have to do rezonings then if the, I mean, we would still be held to that requirement.
I think we're held to that requirement. It's just the tax benefits are not there, which
Less
means
attractive.
it's less attractive. Yes.
Yeah, for really to, practically speaking, for it to happen, it would have to fall in that under 80 category.
Thank you.
Notes? Well, I'll open up the public hearing. Oh, did you have something?
Well, I was just going to ask, does it also exempt existing apartment buildings from coming back to us and asking for an exemption after the fact?
So yes.
Because, currently most of those apartment buildings are now at market rent, right? So,
Yeah, they would not be able to come back.
right. Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone signed up to speak to this item?
No, sir, I have no one signed up.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the council.
President, I move that we approve resolution number 848-25 on its first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, say nay. Hearing none, this item passes unanimously. Thank you.
Item 2.5, drainage improvements that are required along 6th Avenue from 8th Street to 7th Street to include the alley that's east of the fire station. In an effort to improve drainage along 6th Avenue, staff solicited sealed bids for drainage improvements to alleviate the localized flooding. In fiscal year 25 budget included $475,000 for Penny for Pasco, and the CRA will contribute $75,000 for a total of a not to exceed price of $550,000. This does include a 10% contingency. With that recommendation or Public Works and myself, or staff recommends award of the bid to Gillum Construction LLC as presented. Any questions?
Any questions from the council?
What's the scope? What are they going to do exactly?
I'll let Shane. So it's stormwater along 6th Avenue from 7th to 8th.
Some storm culverts or something?
And I'll let Shane.
Thank you, Shane.
Good evening, Shane LeBlanc, Public Works Director. The scope of it, if you think about 6th Avenue over here, we have 2 French drains that you'll always see full of water. They don't drain anywhere. So we're going to make improvements to those 2 French drains, convey the water to Lake Necessity, and then also the alley east of the fire station where you always see the big mud hole. We're going to fix that and put an inlet in, and it's going to convey with piping and go to Lake Necessity. So there'll be some open cuts, some pavement restoration, some paver restoration.
It'll convey it. It'll be underground conveyance.
Yes, it'll be RCP.
Okay.
Pipe.
Went away with the river system.
Essentially, it'll run beneath the pavement in the alley.
Yes, you'll still have the curb and gutter, but you'll also have the benefit of inlets and conveying it to the retention pond.
And this will take into account potential improvements to parking factor and everything. It should, if we do any improvements to this, we shouldn't have to do this again. In other words, this will.
Yes, this is definitely a big improvement we've been working on for quite a while.
We had with the CRA, we've talked about doing that, a landscape of that alley and repaving it. Is that going to be part of this? So that enhancements, this will be the groundwork kind of, and then that'll come next. Right.
It'll include the paving and the improvements to the alley, but no landscaping.
Right, the alley will be paved.
Yes.
Completely from, it's funny, you don't notice how jig-jaggy the alley is until you see it on a map like that. But I mean, we're going to do some pavers and different landscape techniques, streetscaping type things. Right, so when you do the hardscaping, you're not going to, well, what I guess I'm asking is we're not going to pave it and then tear it up to do the hardscaping.
No.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I think that's going to make major improvements to the drainage, especially right around City Hall. And that hasn't worked properly, I think, from the beginning, has it? Really?
It doesn't go anywhere. It's just a
Yeah.
French drain that equalizes. It's a cross pipe going under the road.
Thank you. Do we need a?
Thank you.
I move that we award this bid.
Gillum Construction LLC.
Thank you.
Written on.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against, nay. Hearing none, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Finance Director's report. Ted.
All right, so item 3.1, resolution number 849-25, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Zephyrhills, Florida, to amend the Uniform Utility Department fee schedule for the remainder of the 2024-2025 fiscal year. I do need to make a note that there is a Scribner's error in the resolution for the print. The print says 25-26 fiscal year, and it should read 24-25 fiscal year.
Okay.
Before you have the fees that are asked to be adjusted, it's been 2 years, more than 2 years since we've done the fee adjustment.
Could you do your name and address, please?
Sorry.
For the record.
Ted Beeson, Finance Director for the City of Zephyrhills.
Thank you, Ted.
It's been more than 2 years since we've done a fee adjustment, and what we're asking for is on our late fees. Our late fees haven't been charged since 2019. The last authorization we have is the $4. We've go ahead and include that the minimum of $4, but allow us to go 1.5%. So an apartment complex that would have a $10,000 bill that's paid late would have a $150 late fee. And that's more meaningful than charging $4. We can't get their attention by charging $4. So that was the reason for the requested change there. And then also we go ahead and have a fee that when we detect a leak at a residence or business, we go ahead and have a conversation. And if the immediate reaction is, I want you to roll a check, I want you to go ahead and check the meter, we come back with, yes, we can see it from our automated system. We know that you have a leak there. Will you make some effort on your part just to take a look around before you request that truck? If we have that fee meaningful, then that does go ahead and have our citizens and ratepayers participate in the process. So that's the reason we've requested it from $30 to $40. There are some other costs that we've laid out to say just material costs and getting meter installations as such. If you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to entertain those questions now.
Any questions, Ed?
I'm sorry, couldn't hear you very well, Mr. Beeson. You indicated that it was $12 for a visit with the truck. Is that what you said?
No, it's currently $30 to go ahead and to roll our truck, to go ahead and do a request for a meter check, just to say what's the reading on that meter. In the AMI system, we are fed that data pretty constantly, but it's a 6-hour lag. So we can see what yesterday's data look at, and we could say, yes, you have a leak. It's probably like 80 gallons per hour. Will you go ahead and look at your toilet first before going ahead and requesting the truck to be rolled out there?
I think these are pretty reasonable. You're changing some rates, just a little bit, like the working hour rate from 25 to 35. And I mean, these seem pretty reasonable.
Yeah, Barry, Councilman Smith?
Yeah, Ted, does that happen often that you have somebody want a physical person to come out and look at their meter?
Daily.
Really?
Daily, there's a request to do that, and that's our customer service representatives doing a little bit of finesse and saying, will you make some effort? And quite frankly, when we roll a truck, if there's someone there that's willing to go ahead and come out and look at the meter with us, yeah, you'll even see that we're not gung-ho at charging it. It's those folks that just insist and don't want to participate in the process.
Right. And if you had gone out there and there was an issue on the city side, you probably wouldn't charge them the $40 or $30 rollout anyway.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Burgess?
Do we have an idea how many people have signed up for the alerts? Is there a way of tracking that at all, or?
The alerts are mandatory. It's that they don't need to sign up for that.
Oh, they don't? Okay. Well, because I'll tell you, I have 2 examples just in the last couple of weeks for myself. So in my spare bathroom, I had an issue with a toilet, and I got the thing said, one of the first things it listed was potentially you have a toilet leak. So I went in and checked it, did exactly what it said on there. I was up and running. And then I actually, the one that really, they really got a little freaked out was I had my pool redone. So I was refilling my pool. So they were like, whoa. And then there was a place on there to say, of what you're doing, and the thing was refilling a pool. So it works really well, in other words. And we shouldn't have to roll out anybody because.
Yeah, you're a model customer.
Yeah, it's a waste of
No, for us, I walk into the front yard and there's, and it's mushy around the meter, and it's just, there's 60-year-old or let's say 60-year-old pipes, and it just failed on the city side. So but I don't recall getting an invoice for somebody coming out to check that out.
Correct. It's only when it's on the customer side, and we've tried to talk the customer through it on the phone. We failed. We have to roll a truck, and we're doing a little bit of education in the process. Yeah.
Well, like Councilman Burgess says, it does work, because I got an alert recently. One of my ice maker lines was broke, and I had no idea, because it's under my house, and you guys saved me a lot. I appreciate it. It does work, so I think it's a great program. And I think we need to vote on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, I move approval of this item.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none. Item passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
Item-
looks like city manager.
Item 4.1, the special event Sabor Latino alcohol approval. I need to pull this item. The event is being moved to a different time later in the year, and it will come back before council at the appropriate time.
Okay, so we won't be voting on this.
Correct.
Okay.
Item 4.2, this is a CPH, the city complex extra work authorization. And I know we've had conversations with most of you today regarding this item. Sorry, I gotta get it to where I can read it. In an effort to value engineer the project, the 65% design for the admin building was CMU, which is concrete masonry unit, block type design. Changing the building to a PMB, which is pre-engineered metal building, would reduce the cost per square foot by, I believe it's about $350,000. But what it does require is an additional design cost of $48,810. There's funding in the budget that would cover the $48,810. But as I stated earlier, conversations with most of you, there was conversation of, do we leave the building as a CMU opposed to a PMB building? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in my conversation with the city manager, this is the company that when we reviewed the request where they presented their qualifications for the job, the city had already gone out and hired a architectural firm to do preliminary design work and had been out there with the public works director and utility director, I believe. And they had a rough estimate of a $19 million cost. And this company, while they were presenting their qualifications, told us, which I felt was a little bit of a breach of proper protocol, but that they could redesign and reduce the cost from $19 million to, I think it was 16 million. It might have been 14, but 16 million. And now the building cost is up to, am I correct, 27 million?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I think that, number one, we should not change the design of the cost. A metal building would look horrible out there. Number two, we should ask them to come in and explain how their cost-saving design has cost us more than 8 million of what had been projected by the original architect instead of saving us 3. And I wouldn't give them another dime myself. In fact, I would tempted to say we should fire them.
I'm sorry, you want to go ahead?
And I concur because we were under the assumption, or when we were spoken to, that it was going to be a cost savings on the
It
building.
wasn't an assumption. They said, we will save you money.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember saying, this is not the place you do that. You're really just supposed to be doing your qualifications. But they came in hard sell.
Right.
And it was approved. And I think that was a switch and bait or it was something.
Well, and I do, rather than take action on this, I am of the same mind that we should have these guys come in and explain to us where they're at, what's going on with the project.
No, I think that would probably be the best course of action. 'Cause I was thinking of, when you're talking about maybe tilt wall at the time, about to save money and things like that. So I think they probably should come back and explain before we even discuss it that much more.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, why would we want to put a metal building out there? We need a block building. This is Florida. We get hurricanes, and I'm concerned about the structure's strength.
That's one of our biggest expenses we're going to have. I think it's the biggest project ever.
Yes.
And we need to do it right, number one. Number two, they need that out there because they've been dealing with promises for years about it being done and it hasn't been done. So we need to get it done. But yeah, I mean, when you come in here and say, I'm going to save you 3 million and now I'm going to cost you 11 million more. Yeah, I don't think so.
Can I say something?
Sure, go ahead.
Finish, Billy. Go, Billy. Where are you going to
I
say?
just want to make one comment just to clarify. So every other building on the complex is a metal building. So the admin building would be the only block building. So I just wanted to make that clear. I know you guys know that.
It's the administration. It's like the.
Correct. Yeah, it's the main entrance of the building
gar-
and the other are the working buildings.
Barns or garage type
Correct.
or, different uses.
Right. Yeah, I just wanted to state that for council
Yeah.
and for
Good.
the public so
Good
that they know
point.
it's there are other metal buildings out there.
Councilwoman Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. President. For me, I just want to make it clear that I support the work that our Public Works team does 100%. And I think that they are deserving of a facility that meets their needs, that's going to be useful and functional 20 years from now or 30 years from now, however long the city yard, they've been managing with the city yard they have. But I too wonder, how can we sit here in front of our taxpayers and say, oh, hey, by the way, we've gone from $19,000 to $27,000. And, if that
Originally, it was even less than that.
right, well, 16, but that was unqualified. The bottom line, they were looking at schematic design and that was just sales.
Well,
But even
voted
after
for it.
this, even after
That
that, even if they started at 19 and we're at 27, when I asked the city manager, I think we probably needed to have some periodic updates as we went along, because I really, maybe I wasn't paying attention, but I'm surprised that we're at this place. The other thing is that the city manager mentioned something about tariffs and cost of materials and all that kind of stuff. And what I'm seeing in the private sector is there's downward pressure now on construction costs and material costs, that work is slowing because people are worried about where that next deal is coming from, or how is their business going to be impacted by the tariffs. So what happens is when they stop spending money, then the costs go down. So I'm not inclined to buy that logic today. So I concur with the rest of you gentlemen that we, and depending on what the mayor says, I just think that we should hear back from them and get an explanation.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. I just wanted to remind all of you, and maybe you can go back and read the minutes, that we had one company come in that stood here and said, there is no way that this job is going to be done for $19 million. And we laughed that it had to be. They knew it because they were doing a project of the same scope in a different area. They knew that it was being underbid. And so I knew it that day, that whatever we were being told was not going to happen. So just remind you that, they can tell you whatever they want, but we were forewarned of that in that meeting by one of the companies that came in.
Yeah.
Because they were doing a project almost exactly like this and saying it was
It
coming
was
in at
$400 a square
20,
foot.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
coming in at 24 million and it wasn't coming in.
And that was
It
the height, but that was the height of construction, demand of construction, demand on labor, shortage of materials. So at the time, I think they spent a whole lot more money than they anticipated that municipality did, or the county did.
I tend to agree with Councilman Spina on this. We need to look at the whole deal, but getting them to come back and speak to us and explain exactly where they went wrong on their original estimate, I think would do a lot of good for everybody. What does the council think?
Yeah, we got to have, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm worried about how we're going to pay for anything like that. I was concerned at 19. Now I'm like, I'm very, I don't even think it's going to happen at 27,
Well, they told us something totally different that night, that it was going to be done even for less than that. So,
Yeah, and I think, the one good thing is that we're even tonight, we're going to start budgeting things. So I think that we have to recognize this is a huge project outside of the parks. We're in pretty good shape in a lot of areas, so that this can be kind of our primary focus. But, going forward, we're going to have to say, well, maybe a couple of things we hold off on until we get this done and, Zephyr Park, but that's different pots of money. So it's good that way.
is this something that needed to be voted on, or?
I move that we not provide any additional funding for design and ask the company to come to the next meeting and give us an accounting of how they've reached their numbers.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, this motion passes unanimously. 4.3,
Item 4.3, South Avenue extension to the National Guard entrance road required for the new DMA facility. Due to the increased construction costs, DOT has contributed an additional $935,000 towards this project. This previous project amount was $1.94 million. With the additional $935,000, the new contract amount is $2,875,637. This does leave us about just over $17,000 short of fully funded. The good thing is that there's roughly $220,000 in contingency. So we should not have any money out of pocket. So with that, staff recommends approval of the state-funded supplemental agreement as presented.
and Billy, one thing, you said the DOT is going to hopefully grant us 935,000.
That's
that
exactly
project.
what this is. DOT is giving us $935,000 to cover the overage or the shortfall, whichever way you want to look at it, for the project.
And ask staff to go back to the state senator and get more money for it, to pay for it, so we're not in the hole.
Is there any more discussion, or I'll entertain a motion?
I move that we accept this supplemental agreement.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing none, motion passes unanimously. Mayor's announcements.
How much? I know you guys saw the Channel 11.
Right.
It was
11.
11.
Oh, what? I thought it was 8.
Channel 11.
Sorry.
That came in on Friday. And I wanted to commend Kevin, and he's not here, but maybe I'll send him a note. He did a very amazing job of organizing this whole thing and helping us. And then Antoine helped to set up the visits to the businesses, and it did showcase our city amazingly. I'm very happy with how all the coverage went and the businesses that we showcased, and it was very nice, and they loved being here. They really, truly enjoyed our city and enjoyed the camaraderie. They have never been welcomed like they got welcomed this time. So that was a great thing. So I just wanted to thank everybody, for putting that together and the hard work to make sure that happened. So, nope, that's all I have.
Well, and I want to thank you for being there early that morning. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, and y'all did a great job. And it's nice to see good things being said about our great city on the television.
I was on time too.
City manager's announcements?
I have a couple things. Just a reminder that there's a W50 tournament out at the tennis center this week. The play-in rounds began today, and the main draw begins tomorrow. Also, there's the grand opening on Friday evening at the tennis center. That's at 5 p.m. Iconic in white. So break out all your finest white clothes that you have. Yes. Yes. I don't know. They say iconic and white. And then also there was a Bay News 9 featured Bauducco, and Todd did an interview on that. That was Friday that happened, Friday afternoon. So we had the ABC in the morning, and then Bauducco came in the afternoon. So Zephyrhills is getting a lot of good spotlight on the industry that we brought in. I know we've received some flack on social media on the incentives that we've offered. I will stand by that is the right thing to do, is to offer these incentives to be able to bring in jobs for our citizens so they do not have to drive to Tampa, St. Pete, Largo. They're able to drive across town to go to work and still be able to raise their families here. A lot less time on the roads. We've done that for 2 businesses now on the bookends of the industrial corridor. And because of Bauducco, actually we have a third one, Tibbetts, the lumberyard, the truss plant. They'll be having a groundbreaking on the 23rd at 10 a.m. But what we've also heard is because of Bauduco, we haven't actually received the calls, but Pasco County has been receiving calls on companies looking in this area that are suppliers for Bauduco. So, providing those incentives, although the number seems really big, I think it's a small number compared to what we're going to be receiving in the future. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Now we move on to city council comments. We'll start with Councilman Smith.
Thank you. And what Billy said, I mean, I stupidly posted a nice thing about the Bauduco online, and then I tried to talk to these idiots that were going back and forth. And I shouldn't say idiots. They had concerns, but it's just, it's a shame you can't put something out that you feel like is positive. And it reminded me of something I put of some utility workers one time. Took a picture of those guys working hard in the summer and posted it online. And the first comment was negative. So I think it's a cesspool that social media is. I think it's a terrible thing. And if we all turned it off, I think we'd be better off. So
Amen.
go ahead.
Preaching to the choir. Councilwoman Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Councilman Smith, just a reminder, what my father used to always say is no good deed goes unpunished. So I too saw that those negative comments, and I just choose not to respond mostly because our city attorney has told us, all of us are friends on Facebook and we can see each other's Facebook, and there could be an inadvertent violation of sunshine laws. So it's just better not to talk about those things on social media as much as I would like to. And I try to always focus on positive things that are personally related. And so, I just know that the tax incentives for Bauduco only last 10 years, but the facility and their expansion and potential expansion and all those jobs that will be generated in the future, I think that's the impetus for that. And I think the bottom line is we had to compete for that business and we were successful. And I'm not ashamed of that. I'm proud of that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
if I can add, because there have been statements about the tax abatement. And so what that is, just for clarification, I know council knows that, but to put it on the record, it's a 50% reduction in taxes. So they pay 100% of their tax. And after they pay their tax, the city will reimburse them 50%. So if their taxes are $100,000 a year, they get 50 back. The city still gets 50. And if we remember right, that land was not in the city. It was in the county and it was an ag use. So the city was getting absolutely zero for that property. So now we'll get 50% of the taxes for 10 years. And after 10 years, we get 100%.
And we can't spend that money.
And up to 600 jobs.
And we can't spend that money on infrastructure and traffic improvements anyway.
Correct. And I don't know that,
We don't know the road.
I don't know that it's public record, but I'll say it. The size that they were planning on building that we gave incentives for, we've been told that it's going to be a much larger building. They're already deciding to move additional lines here. So our investment is continuing to grow at that same location.
Plus they bought 20 acres.
Correct.
For what they're, yeah.
And
Yes.
like you said, it builds upon itself that the PEDC is getting calls about others. So yeah, this is kind of
The anchor tenant.
the anchor tenant, and then people, it's a big change, and it's better than subdivisions and apartment buildings. It's
And it's creating good jobs for the citizens of Zephyrhills. Councilman Burgess?
Well, as far as social media, I'm old timer, so I don't have any of that stuff. So you wouldn't have to come see me if you want to yell at me by anything. But I think if some of these people that feel the need to say something, if they would just come down and just get educated a little bit, they might find out that, hey, that's a great idea, and then they can help spread it on social media for us. But Anyways,
Well, you don't know how social media works.
no, I don't know. I guess I don't. I just want to say good luck to Council President Proctor on this year of presidency. Hope everything goes smooth. That's all.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Councilman Speedham?
Yeah, you got into the swing of things pretty quick.
Yeah,
I don't know. I
trial by fire.
feel pretty off there for a while.
No, you got it. You got it. I just have a couple things. One, I wanted to congratulate the staff. I think that I was really glad to see David Fox here and that the city is applying for a CDBG grant. That's huge. That's money just sitting on the table that we need to go for. And I think the purpose of it to help us with the park. And then when we can double up once we get that and add economic development funding to help with some of these new projects, you know, we'll be way ahead of the game. And then the only other thing I have is, I guess tonight will be the last night we're in here until June, huh? Oh, one more meeting. Okay, never mind. And then the other thing I want to know is I'd like to have an update on the council agenda next meeting on what is going on with the home theater, where the design is, what the plans are. And I want to make sure that that is presented to our Historic Preservation Board as well, but I want an update from Main Street to the city council. Act like it's shrouded in some kind of, but I think we need to have input and it needs to go before the public. I get questions about it all the time and I have to say I have no idea what's going on. So I would like it on the council agenda.
No,
That's it.
I think that's a great idea. And it's funny, Councilman Burgess, I wanted to thank you for the great job you did last year as our council president. You took us through probably one of the toughest years that I can recall that the city's been through in a long time. And we all really appreciate your hard work and your effort and what you did. And on that, I wish you would just give me a little grace. I know I didn't do too well this evening, but I'll get better. And on that, I'm going to close this.
Mr. President, can I ask one more thing?
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead.
So I can say it on the 28th, but just want to remind council that on May 13th, the county is having a workshop for the use to create a plan to use the HUD funds, that $586 million that they received. So that meeting, there's meetings between now and May 13th that are in Pasco County, that are in Dade City and throughout Pasco County. But on May 13th, they will be at the train depot for us to attend to talk to them and encourage them to add the city projects to that list of funding. So you're going to ask me 6 o'clock, 6 p.m.
I have one more thing too that reminded me. I've been working with some people on trying to get help from FEMA for properties. Their houses were pretty much destroyed during Hurricane Milton. We were successful in getting one family some funding. I've been dealing with Congresswoman Lee's office, her staff. I guess he's her chief aide. He has been extremely helpful, but FEMA's pretty much not responding anymore. But dollars to adding money. So I just want to let you know that we're not getting answers anymore. So there's still people out there whose homes were pretty much destroyed and they're not getting any help from FEMA at all.
Can I say something on that? Habitat East Pasco has received some grant funding to help 20 families. And I'm trying to identify ones in our city that could use the help. And they have the contractors lined up, everything lined up that will make this project to go quickly. And at this point, they have, I think, 200,000, but expecting another 200,000 in grant funding. So if if you come across those and you,
I'll give it
will
to you
you,
right now.
yeah,
I'll
will
write them
you,
down right
and
now.
I will pass that on to Kathy over there.
Yeah, Daniel mentioned that to me to ask you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Councilman Spina and Mayor. Anything else? Seeing none, I will close tonight's meeting and we'll take a 5-minute adjournment and we'll come back to the second meeting.
The budget meeting.
This conference will now be recorded.
When I die, you can have
Hey, what about us?
the pictures of him.
Oh, I don't want none.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
All right, we can go home now.
I know. Where was the light earlier when I couldn't read anything? Ricardo, are you ready, sir? All right, we'll open up the meeting. Would you do the roll call, Ricardo?
Yes, sir. Lance Smith. Here. Jody Wilkinson.
Here.
Charles Proctor.
Here.
Kenneth Burgess. Steven Spina.
Here.
Mayor Munson.
Here.
William Poe. Here. Matthew Maggard.
All right, looks like the only thing on the item tonight is our workshop items. I believe we want to figure out what things we want to put on the upcoming budget.
All right, yes.
And,
Yeah, so my, sorry. This is a visioning workshop for the fiscal year 25-26 budget. And we would request, staff would request that council members present items and their vision for what they'd like to see in the upcoming budget.
all right, so who wants to start?
I'll go.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I have just a couple things. Sorry, I'm eating a gummy. I don't know what kind of gummy it is. But, sorry. So I had I have two things. One was the hotspot we're designing them this year, and are we going to build them this year?
So I have it printed out. So I have the schedule printed out and they're laying on my desk. Off the top of my head, I believe most of them will be completed September, October. So by the time we go out to bid, it'll be next fiscal year before
The design, you mean, will be
the construct. Yeah, sorry. The design will be done September, October of this year.
Right.
So then construction would have to be next year. We were hoping to be able to get it done a little quicker, but it just.
That'll be one thing. And then could you kind of give us maybe a list of the specific intersections also, so we can remember which ones are, not now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not now. Then the other thing, I think we've grown to a sufficient size as a city that we need to hire a full-time civil engineer. We have to have I think we should have an engineer on staff. I think we could hire this person within the utility department, and then we can partially fund it through public works or have a mechanism to where we can share the duties. But I think for the size we are, every time we want to do something, if we, and the way we actually, a lot of this cost will be reimbursed by others. When we do subdivision plans and we hire an engineer to review it, the subdivision pays that fee. So we would get that money back. But I think that we need to have the ability to not go to a consultant every time we need some engineering work done. And I think you'll find that that'll save us time and money in the long run. I would like to review, I guess next meeting, we're doing the drainage study or workshop. Is that right?
Next week, we're doing the storm prep, like an update on storm prep.
All right. So as part of that, I'd like to, I had asked Ricardo to let me review some of our drainage plans from the last over 20 years, I guess. Like there was 2 or 3 of them. So I think, but I think we should also incorporate how we're going to, what we learned from Hurricane Milton. And then I think we need to incorporate into our study a a plan to implement a stormwater drainage fee so that we have funding to actually do something with some of the issues that we're coming up against, and that, you know, they're not going to go away for sure. So
I'm going to interject after each item. All right. So just an update on the stormwater fee. I know, just bear with me for 1 second. We brought that up when the stormwater master plan was done. There really wasn't appetite for it. But staff and I met with Kimley Horn 2 weeks ago, to discuss stormwater fee, because we believe, as you stated, right now is the right time to do a stormwater fee. To be able to help fund these projects that need to be done, but then also, have that money to be able to apply for grants and have that match. It's a small fee that each homeowner is going to pay and commercial development is going to pay, but I think it's something that we seriously need to look at. So we've started that process.
yeah, I think we definitely need it. And I mean, we had drainage issues all over the place. I mean, it wasn't just 1 or 2 neighborhoods. It was pretty much, all pockets. So, all right, that's a good thing. Secondly, we've been talking about Zephyr Park, so I'm not really going to hone in on that, but I would like a couple specific park improvements added to the budget as line items or however you want to do it. But I'd like a pavilion with picnic tables at Cruisin' Field. I was out there the other day, and that shade structure is not nice, but they still could be used. Every park has pavilions and picnic tables. I would like to see landscaping at Ellis Harrell Park. And we talked about that when they were here doing the park master plan. So I think we need to do some of that. And I would like to see the dog park improved at Gunner Dog Park. I think we need new benches. We also need trees. You may even want a pavilion of some kind there with something where you can have a picnic table. People socialize out there. When I was there the other day, there were a group of guys sitting around talking and while their dogs were running around. I think we also need to look for a location for a dog park on the north side of the city. And I don't think we need to do like a specific park. I think we can incorporate a dog park. I was somewhere the other day, and along a linear park, they had a small little enclosure for a dog park. They had a little playground there. You don't have to have separate things everywhere. You can incorporate them into different things. And then lastly, I'd like to have start designing sewer lines in the sewer system for the 6th Avenue, Otis Moody subdivision and Airport Road area. I think we should start planning a 2-year project. Start with Airport Road because I think it'd be easier to come from Heights up Airport Road that way and connect onto 6th Avenue. And then I think right now, since we're starting with construction of the sidewalk along those routes in the current budget, that we need to figure out, you might want somebody out there to look at where those sewer lines would be. So we're not going to build sidewalk and then tear it up and put in sewer lines.
So,
and I'll just follow up with, on those things, I think we can still we could use a neighborhood community development grant. We can get with the county on the CDBG money, since even though it's in our utility service area, it's county residents. And I think we can still work on the state appropriation, but I think we need to start the project, get the design going, and then figure out how we're going to do it.
So we have part of the project request on May 13th. We had a conversation with Connor with Pasco County. handling of that $586 million. And one of the projects that we're going to ask for is for the county to run the sewer lines to Otis Moody and along Airport Road to connect those residents along Airport right up to Lincoln Heights. And it falls under one of the categories there. So that's one of the requests we'll make.
Just so you know, I had a resident out there ask me about it the other day. So
Burgess.
Well, so Steve kind of covered a lot of what storm. Yeah, you actually the stormwater. I know because obviously that came to our attention. So I mean, I think that's a big part of what we're gonna have to look at is the different stormwater things that we're. And then I had put on there about the city yard, the new city yard a few weeks back, and then of course it came up tonight and was on the agenda and stuff a little bit. So we're kind of looking at that too already. So I don't really need to bring that up again. And same thing with the parks we've discussed already. I like the idea of a in-house civil engineer. I think in the long run it'll save us a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a position that's probably a fairly costly position, but I think in the long run, because every time we turn around, we're looking some outside and they're not really looking at saving us money when we ask them things. So I think that's kind of a good idea. We need to probably look at, a little more extensively about, what that entails as far as like having one and to make sure that he's going to be qualified enough in either utility or public work or public works type projects too. So that's all.
Thank you. Councilwoman Wilkerson.
So, yes, thank you, Dr. Spina. I also have been working hard on Gunner Paul Park. I think I've been talking with our public works director, every time that we have somebody come forward. You remember that when we asked for input from the public, a fellow named Joe Worrell came up here and he's given some information to me that I've passed on to the public works director about how we might improve that park, because it really is a jewel. The size of it is perfect for that particular kind of use. The other thing that I have suggested in the past, but we haven't really had much traction, and that's the idea of utilizing the areas where we have the lift stations, that we have pieces of property that could be utilized for a dog park if we were able to re-fence that area and provide a water station, a bench, and some shade, a shade structure of some sort. The other, one of the parks, the park we talked about before that has no pavilions is the Veterans Park. And I think that there's a great opportunity there to have some kind of a structure that's large enough to house the visitors for a Veterans Day event of some sort, or an event honoring the veterans. The other thing is that I feel strongly that if we hire the civil engineer, one of the things that we really need to be doing is following up to ensure that the developers that submit plans to our city are held accountable for delivering what is on those plans and what's required of them, because I didn't realize until I got into this situation where I'm supporting some folks at Abbott Station and their efforts to force the developer to do what's right. And they've just struggled and struggled. And I think that the city manager has made you aware of at least one other developer who hasn't really delivered on their promise to the city. The bottom line is that they get a set of plans, it gets approved by the city, and our building officials and the code enforcement folks go out there and they cite these people, but there's not enough teeth in the current regulations, and there's not been anybody, enforcing it on a regular basis. And one of the things that I asked the city manager was, what is the process? We've never pulled a bond before on a developer, but if they don't deliver, we need to start showing folks that we mean business, that you don't promise our residents that you're going to do something for them and then pull the bait and switch. It isn't right. And we're really their only recourse.
If I can just
Yes.
clarify one thing, it's the same builder, different subdivision, or same builder, different subdivisions that are having.
But it's happening in the county too, like people, that's not necessarily happening in our city.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah, I
really
don't-
it's kind of widespread.
Mhm.
And so we just want to make sure that those folks who are coming in to do business with us, that they understand that we mean business. The other thing is that I'd like an update. We had 11 properties that are zoned R4. You know, recently when we approved the site plans for Black Marlin and Providence Village Townhomes, there was a firestorm on social media where they talked about, you know, why are we still building residential? Well, these things have been in the pipeline for over 2 years. So one is the Purvis property east, the other is Pretty Pond Apartments, the other is Zephyr Commons Apartments, Terrace at Pretty Pond Townhomes, Advent property, which is the hospital area, those apartments, Providence Village, Black Marlin, Silver Oaks Village Townhomes, Nick Apartments. This apparently is no longer active. Island Fort King PUD, and Gateway PUD. So, and that is not currently active. So I just wanted to know if at some point you can provide us with an update of these. Maybe Mr. Vandenberg can help. We just want to make sure that we understand how much longer, you know, if we're going to continue this residential, the mandatory high density building moratorium, that we understand what kind of impact that is potentially long term from a tax standpoint too. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Smith.
Thank you. Can I real quick just? Sure. So we will look at that. I will tell you just an update. We're right there on our consumptive use permit. We have a meeting on Wednesday with the representatives for Evans and Orsi. Has the agreements tied to our consumptive use permit. Once we get that finalized, that will go to SwiftMud for final approval. And then we should receive our permit hopefully within 60 days of that. Then I think we have to have some conversations around kind of making sure we're meeting the demand to keep the consumptive use permit, because of some of the subdivisions that you mentioned are in the counts to show the demand. But if we don't build and we don't meet the demands on
Don't use it, you
every
lose it.
couple of years, correct? So we almost, hate to say it, we almost have to over approve to get our sure that we meet that demand. So, sorry.
I think some of the items that I'm thinking about, we had a lot of stormwater that we needed to work on, and it's contingent on us getting our portion of the Pasco County money to do a lot of these projects. If we're not successful, then I think we're going to have to take on some of it on our own. And I think it's going to be a multi-year project, some of them. But I'd like to, and I don't think we spent any of the trail money yet this year. But what I would like to do, and I had been working with the planning department very well on their bus stops. I'd like to continue that, but I'd also like to budget another additional money and then let the planning department go ahead and come up with a plan for the trails, if we could, because they have been working hard in conjunction with the public works. If we could work on that, develop a plan that is multi-year where we can phase in these segments of trail. And you know, you hate to say it, but on these silly little trail things, you have to do SwiftMud and all that, unfortunately. And it gets so cumbersome. You spend a lot of money, half of your money planning the thing, which is frustrating. I don't know what our plans are in the parks, but Joe Worrell had talked about not having a nice fountain in the dog park. And when we go to the League of Cities, we see these very nice fountains. And I know we're planning one, I think, two of them. So I would like to see us continue to place those out. Zephyr Park, they can always be moved. I mean, we can always move them if we need to. But Veterans Park, look at the areas. The tennis courts has a fountain, but it doesn't work. If you have bottle fills on them, it would be helpful. I'd also like for HR to look at a few jobs that we could look at hybrid positions with, because I'm going to tell, I mean, we're older, but the younger people, that's what they want. When they look at a job, the first thing to do is it remote or hybrid? So I think we need to really work and test a couple of them. Something that came up here a couple meetings ago was a director of Parks and Recreation. I think we need to really strongly consider that position. We're getting more and more parks, and it's just something that it relieves Shane in his end, and I just think it'd be a good thing for us to consider. So that's it.
Thank you. Well, pretty much y'all covered everything that I had on my list. For me, my priority is definitely stormwater. After what we went through last year, I don't want any of us to have to deal with that sort of thing. But, you know, we can't help acts of God, but we can try to be proactive on it. And second of all, we've been spending money on designing stuff for Zephyr Park for a decade now. And we've really, for me, I want to start moving forward. I want to see something done in that park. And after the storm, now we know where we shouldn't put anything. So I think the only good part about the park flooding was we know the bad spots for sure. And I would also like to deal with the hot spots. We put the hot spots together, what, a couple of years ago? And I'd like to see us start moving forward on these hot spots and thinking about turn lanes. I think that's going to help a lot with some of our problems. And I know they're not all city roads, but I mean, and sidewalks. I know what do we have budgeted this year for sidewalks?
I would have to look at the
I
budget.
think it was around $1 million.
I will verify that number. I do not
Okay,
know.
no problem.
Sorry.
And lastly, I do believe the city needs some sort of an event center. I mean, Alice Hall has been there a long time. I'm not saying where to put it, but that might be a good location. We need an event center, maybe / youth center. Just something to think about. I think it's something that would be well used in the community. And you all covered everything else, so that was my priorities.
President, regarding that matter, you know, one of the reasons, or one of the impetus for the state senator, Mr. Burgess, to gift the money or to achieve appropriations from the state and gift it to Main Street was because there's a dream there, and this is it's kind of echoed by the rest of the community. The folks that I've spoken to is a cultural arts center, and you know, maybe one of the ideas was that, you know, this be a multi-level building, that it have opportunities for event centers. So opportunities for folks to rent out the floors and have an outdoor event on, you know, on the roof or something like that. And so that's one of the concepts that has been discussed by the design team and the committee, the theater committee group at Main Street. So, you know, keep that in mind, that whatever we do, we want to make sure that we're not overlapping what's available. You know, the Women's Center uses, they have a meeting center, of course, there. That's a great source of revenue for them. It helps them pay for the improvements to the Women's Center. So, but I think Alice Hall, it needs to be someplace special, because she was a great person in our community, and
Absolutely.
And I think that its purpose as the you know, the election hall and, you know, that kind of, and the town center and that sort of thing, I can really see that being terrific for that purpose.
And we could use it as a combination of things. So I think that's a great way to look at it.
Multi-use, all of those facilities is important.
All right. Mayor, did you have
Thank
any
you.
input? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
no, that's okay. That's all right. So I'm going to piggyback on this community center. I get the downtown theater, but you know, we should not have to go out of our city to have an event to host 200 people. And we can't host that in our city. Our city is large enough now that we should not have to go, you know. And I do believe if we, however we decide to do this, a community center, we are at that point that we need this for our community, not just for the youth, but for seniors, for the whole community. And I echo with you on a director of Parks and Recreation. If we had a community center, that would be fall underneath that too. So it's one of the things I've been talking about since the day I got elected, and even before that, that I'm praying that somehow in the 4 years that I'm here, that we can at least have that conversation. And Zephyr Park is, I know you don't want to say where we want it located, but when you look at centrally located where people can walk to from all schools, that is our central location. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. The dog park, I love the ideas of mini dog parks around. I think that's a brilliant idea. I had not even thought about that, but the dog park out there is not just a dog park, it's a social place. And those people go out there, and sometimes that's the only social interaction that those people have all day with other humans. And they go out there and they sit for hours with their dogs. So yes, that needs to be improved and made to look made to fulfill what it should do. Sidewalks, agreed. We've got to make sure we keep putting money into sidewalks and not just these first couple of years. We have to keep going, because that lighting at the parks, I'm going to keep bugging and saying that, big deal. We need lighting at our parks. So I agree with you that we keep saying that we're going to do something at Zephyr Park. Listen, that first plan was way back in 2014 or 16, and here we are 10 years later, and we haven't done, what have we done out there? I don't know, to really improve it, little bits, okay? So it's time to put money, and even if it's like Councilman Burgess has said, we have this, if we have the plan, we can do small projects out there. If we can't do a $10 million project, we can do enough to start building our faith back from our residents of us saying that we're going to do it, and we haven't done it. So that's just a big deal for me. So other than that, all the things that you guys talked about, the trails, big deal. The trails are a big thing. Absolutely. Dr. Stovall would echo that if he were here. So I'm going to say on Dr. Stovall's behalf, yes, let's make sure we do that. So I think everything else that you guys have talked about hits right on the head. I don't know, have anything else to add to it.
And I add to the community center thing. So, and I think that's kind of important too. And I know I've spoken with Billy about this and maybe Gail too, but you know, if we, let's kind of look outside the box a little bit. So there, in Blairsville, Georgia, I used to have a place up there and they built a new community center. Well, they happened to build it where the municipal golf course was. So in that building, and I'm sure they leased it in some manner, but the pro shop was in there. There was a little restaurant upstairs.
Yep.
The Chamber of Commerce is right in the middle, sort of kind of like welcoming everybody
Right.
too. And that's where they were kind of located. And then of course had a meeting space and a bigger event area. So I think if we're looking at that, you know, let's not be afraid to look outside the box a little bit and consider, I don't know what we could come up with, but something that maybe works.
That's a great idea.
It could help out that way.
Yeah, and I was talking to Banks, Wegman and Banks, and they want to take us on a little tour of one that is not far from here. Who was in that conversation? You were. Yeah, that we'll go and start looking at some ideas. I think we need to get some broad ideas because, right, there's.
We were talking there about buildings we have that could be
Retro.
retrofitted, you know. Todd and I had looked at the First Baptist Church once, remember that? And that old historic part of that church is beautiful. It's one of the prettiest buildings in town. It's a block
very
from the
modern,
park.
too.
Maybe, you know, you could retrofit something, who knows? And it tied Main Street, the park, history, everything into one. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. The depot, it's so underutilized.
Yes.
And
it
if we
is.
could figure out, heck, if we put a Tina and Joe's in there, something to get, you know, use that, have that used. So I think
It
we've
needs
got to,
love. I mean, that thing, it's hard. You have to take care of those buildings,
I
and
know,
the
it's just,
floor
you
is
know, we were
very
there,
rustic, and it's hard, you know, it's hard. It's not, it's tough for people and have mobility issues, and but it's a great space.
yeah, we've got to, you know, we've got to do that. And then, you know, I think we've got good, we have a good team. We have, you know, we have good ideas, you know, what we have.
Absolutely.
Just before you, I'd just like to recognize the three gentlemen in the back for being here tonight. And, well, two gentlemen and Eric. Thank you for my egg, Eric. Thank you.
Oh,
And,
I thought he laid it.
but I appreciate you being here and sitting through this. I think we all do, I'm sure. So,
Absolutely. Well, I think we've given Billy plenty to look at. And I didn't think of it, but I did like Councilman Smith's idea about a civil engineer. We spend way too much, oh, was it your idea? Councilman Spina's idea of a civil engineer. We spend a lot of money on them, and I think it is a necessity. And I apologize. But is there any other discussion from the council on this? Does anyone in the audience want to say anything about this?
Eric?
Seeing none, I will close the meeting. I don't know why I said that. Still a good idea.
I didn't, so